cry. And that's pretty often, pretty common, and pretty frequent. The friends that I had before Natalie died weren't friends. No matter what, they always had advice to give. That's it. They didn't care what I was going through, didn't want to hear what I was going through, and that remains to this day. Now, there's a lady named Michelle, and you guys know how I feel about all the folks who sent me friend requests and all that stuff after Natalie disappeared. Now, of course, that doesn't make them bad people. I say that often, and I'm told by a lot of folks, man, you're just making excuses for your predators. Like, not everybody out there is a predator. And sometimes people just do screwed up stuff, whether or not it's predatory or not. That's depending on if you're honest or not. For me, what I needed was, well, a friend or family who would look at the evidence and speak up. That's not difficult. People's ulterior motives are not my problem and not my fault. The fact that people didn't care before Natalie died, and then afterwards, everybody just wanted to hide their involvement. They just wanted to text at me, and that's just the most horrible thing. Like, all they do is text me the same things over and over and over again. They don't get that I'm not allowed to do those things. They don't understand it. And everybody's pretty much the same. They'll ignore you for 6 years, never look at evidence, and never speak up. And it's the same with everyone. See, here's why it is that I've been screaming for my friends to go away for so long. Before Natalie died, I reached out to them for help. And they all wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to be selfish. They didn't have time. And I get that. I get that they didn't care about me enough to actually make the time. Now, this lady here, she finally did make the time, sort of, and she didn't know me, and that's the real kicker here. This lady did more than most of the friends I know in real life. And the ones I know in real life, you know what, no matter what they did, if they didn't speak up, it didn't happen. These people don't understand that their testimony in court is so important. That their words showed that the things said about me in court that I was railroaded by over and over again. That those things were done over false pretenses and outright lies. Caitlin Tatum is one of many people that I reached out to because I was being harmed and I couldn't see my friends. I didn't have a friend in the world after I hurt my back. Fair weather friends and all that. And a lot of people told me if I went there that they would help me out how I needed, which is somebody to actually look at the evidence and help me to turn it in. There was a lot of people that were involved, but they never tried to help turn it in. And now with 6 years of it, I need people to understand there's 6 years of it. You don't understand that every time I have to move, I have a limited amount of time where I'm stuck homeless, and if I don't get unhomeless in that very limited amount of time, well, I become prey for everybody else in the neighborhood. I cannot defend myself, and you guys don't get that. When you meet me in person, you realize I'm a really, really nice guy, and that I'm a lot more gimpy than I let off to be. Michelle ain't a bad person, not even close. She just doesn't know me. the way she got a hold of me and all that, you know, I just started asking people to leave. I don't want people to be in my life who can't be honest. And that's the thing about Michelle, is that she was honest. She doesn't have the time. The other thing is, I've got her phone number. She didn't scam me, so I'm not putting her number up. If need be, well, there's a way to get a hold of her, and I can explain that she's a witness that I was trying to get help. That's the thing about people not understanding all the stuff they're asking me to do from the position that I'm in. They don't stop to understand that. They don't stop to listen to me explaining the situation. Now, for her, the other night was a real bad night. After the situation with Caitlin and Danny. Danny I barely knew, and Caitlin, you know, she actually knew me back then better than anybody in my own family ever did. The thing is, you guys haven't understood through any of this that I have been separated from my friends and my family for 6 years. It has been unsafe for me to go see my friends and family for 6 years. Everywhere I go, I am abused, and I am stuck alone everywhere that I go. Every time that I have to move somewhere new, I have to start over fresh. I have to jump through all of it without a support and safety network. Michelle is not even close to the same as Caitlin. Not even close to the same as Danny either. Danny knows me in person. All these people who knew me in person, that's the thing about the 3 lies. That's what I need help with. I proved that I didn't stalk her, and I didn't stalk those other people neither. I told the truth, and I asked them to tell the truth. The things that I said are true, but nobody wanted to look at it. That's the problem. All these folks who listen to these web sleuth groups, you guys think that I can just ignore those people in real life? That I can just pretend everything is fine while I am living in fucking hell? I should not be living like this. I was the one victimized by Natalie and her friends, and none of you helped. None of you cared. None of you took a look. None of you helped share the information. Not a single one of you, and that's the problem. I was just entertainment. I was never anything more to you than easy words. Hey, I can say I tried. Well, did you really? See, throwing money at me is a lot different story than telling the truth about the situation. The fact is, the people that I went to for help before Natalie was killed, they just simply didn't care. And after Natalie was killed, they thought if they just ignored it, it'd go away. No, if you guys are my friends, be my friends. It shouldn't be up to strangers that I don't know and I never met, like Michelle. I shouldn't have to believe the words of people like Shannon Alvarado. I didn't know she was an alcoholic till I got to her house. And all these people that knew stuff about Natalie Bollinger and the situation with Natalie and the abuse that I've endured, none of them helped me to turn it in when it mattered the most. Trying to get this stuff turned in months and months or even years afterwards, when I was trying to get it turned in when it happened, is horrible. Now I'm going to pull out this paperwork again, and this is the stuff I've been saying since the beginning. This is the stuff that people want to argue in texting for months or years. Like, are you a friend or not? I told the truth. I'm trying to keep your name safe and your name's private by getting you to help me to turn this stuff in. And that helps to keep a lot of other people's names private. Why can't you just admit that I did go to you for help? It's because all of you blew me off before Natalie died. And then afterwards, you just want to do the same exact thing. It's either telling me what to do, telling me what to think, telling me what to feel. Why don't you stop and find out what the situation is? Why don't you stop and find out what I'm going through? And that's where it's a matter of whether or not you matter to people. Lots of people will pretend to be your friends, but whether or not you matter doesn't matter how good of a person you are. I wish that were true. Before Natalie was killed, I was a lot different. Before all that bullshit for a whole year before she was killed, I was a lot different. Before I hurt my back, I was a lot different. You guys keep telling me about all these things I'm supposed to be able to have, but the thing is, you guys all want to do the same thing over and over and over again. I need someone to act as a friend or family. That means that they need to know what's going on. How many of you bothered to find out what's going on in the last 6 years? How many of you bothered to keep up? How many of you have ever tried calling the police with me when a situation is actually happening? I went to all of you guys over and over and over again, always procrastinating, always some reason you can't do it right now. Can't do it right now, but you'll do it next week. You'll do it next week. Don't lie to me. Don't bullshit me. Now with Michelle, after 8 years of not knowing me, she hasn't done some horrible thing. She sent me $50 day before yesterday so I could have enough to have some gas and have some food. Now there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I constantly have to run around on the search for those things. It costs me resources. And none of you are understanding. I can't afford to do all the things that you're asking me to do. I can't afford to go to all these meetings all the time, having to go to... Before Natalie was killed, I was going to one therapy meeting every single week, all right, in Sidney, Nebraska. When I was living in Chapel, it was only 30 miles each way, plus the time that I was there. But we never did anything to turn in my predators. We went through, jumping through all the paperwork so that I could get the developmental disability paperwork so that they would have to do something when I'm abused. So that people wouldn't be allowed to do what they were doing before. So that they couldn't just come and harm me whenever they wanted over a rumor and then pretend I made it up. And that's the reason that these people all failed in my eyes. It's not just in my eyes, they failed in the eyes of morality. They knew that the story being sold was not the truth. And yet they allowed me to be harmed repeatedly because they didn't want to tell the truth. They didn't even want to acknowledge my existence most of the time. When they did offer to help, it took them forever to do it. They procrastinated and showed me I didn't matter. They didn't care what happened to me. They were going to do the minimum quantity they could do to say they tried to help me, but not one of them ever helped me to turn it into the police. When Candace Bondurant was telling me that her family was being threatened, she didn't try helping me to turn it into the police. Instead, she let me be treated like I'm crazy for saying it. And like I was imagining her and she doesn't actually exist. Well, I had to go and gather the evidence that she could have just simply stated, yeah, I do exist. What Sean's saying is true. People were threatening my family. They were threatening my kids. And that's the reason that I record these things. The reason that these people are all on my shit list is because they never came forward. I'm expected to understand their fears while they're not having to live this. I'm having to understand their fears of what might possibly happen, and I'm having to live the fears of what does happen. Now, I don't like being mean to people at all. I don't like people being mean to me either. I don't like people taking advantage of the disabled or the homeless. Now, Michelle, she mentioned my YouTube videos. She said she watched some more of them, and, you know, nobody measures up in my eyes, basically. And I'm sorry if I misquoted that. No, it's that nobody tried to be a friend through any of this. You know, they had their own lives, and I had to understand that. But then when I go to them for help, and I don't even get to tell them what help I need because they're busy telling me about their own lives. Well, that's the only time that we ever communicate, is if I get a hold of them. And that's not a friendship. That's very one-sided. Out of sight, out of mind. And lets you know how much people care about you. A lot of people had really good intentions, just no follow-through. And some people's ideas were really good if it was somebody else's situation. But my situation isn't what they have in their head. Between looking at the facts and evidence and just assuming whatever the hell they wanted to assume, they just assumed whatever the hell they wanted to assume. That's not a decision that I made for them. And this fantasy, you know, whatever they have in their head of what it's like for me is not the reality of what I'm living. People tell me to let it go. I can't see any of my loved ones. I have no familiarity in my life. I'm surrounded by strangers, and I have no money, no credit. I got Jack. And I get told that I chose it. Oh yeah, that's real nice. That's a very sexist point of view. And that's one of the biggest issues that I'm dealing with, is that I can't be a victim because I'm white. I can't be a victim because I'm a male. And the reality of the situation is, are you kidding me? That's the reality of the situation. All these people who are supposedly my friends before Natalie died showed that they weren't. And the people who came on after Natalie died, they had their own ideas and opinions, and all of that is always more important than the actual victim. And you don't understand or try to understand how dismissive those things are. How you tell the victim that it's their fault that these people didn't do nothing. Or that it's their fault that, like Caitlin Tatum, for example, she should have come forward 6 years ago. 6 years ago, just one of these people coming forward and admitting that I went to them for help before Natalie was killed. But they didn't. They wanted to argue about other stuff. They wanted to argue moral crap. I'm like, but you weren't there for any of it. Why are you arguing that stuff with a bunch of other people who weren't there for it? Tell them the truth of it. Caitlin Tatum, she didn't have much involvement in it. She was too busy. But the problem is, the lies that I was being railroaded by were horrible, and they were being told by law enforcement, claiming that I never tried to get help. Meanwhile, Natalie Bollinger claimed that I was harassing her friends. No, I was asking my friends for help. Who she was friends with and who she wasn't friends with wasn't my business. I needed help. I needed help stopping abuse by Natalie Bollinger and by her friends. I get that she was pretty, but she also grew up in the system like me. She wasn't stupid. She stole my death. After you destroy a man's life by pretending like he stalked you, knowing damn well that he did everything that you asked, including leave. And by the way, that was my idea. I didn't want her getting in trouble with her mom. But you guys don't get that. You don't try to look at that. What you care about is the fucking drama in the game that she was playing, because she was all fucked up on drugs, and you don't care about the life that she destroyed. Lives that she destroyed. Now, after years of this, like Michelle, she sent me a friend request years ago, and I thought she was going to try to help, and she's one of many people that I messaged over and over and over again. Please take a look at the evidence and speak up. Please, someone look at the evidence and speak up. And they'd always say they would, and I'd send it, and nothing, crickets. Nobody ever speaks up, and as far as going in with me, that doesn't happen. I follow the guidelines that I'm supposed to follow, but the number one guideline there is I'm supposed to have a friend or family member present, and the reason for that is because they're supposed to know what's going on. And I'm going to say that a few more times too. And the other night when Michelle called, I was having a pretty bad meltdown, and it wasn't all because of her, it's because of repetition. At first I was patient. Joanna Taylor Smith told me I just needed to be patient. We couldn't even get it organized to have a telephone call or to have coffee, she said we were going to have coffee and talk in person, and I was hoping that we could have a telephone call. But the problem is, like most of you, you want to tell me pretty shit, and that's supposed to fix it. And then when you tell me that you're going to call and you don't, and then you say you're going to call and you don't, and then you say you'll call and you don't, and you don't, and you don't. Eventually I don't want to go to you anymore. I don't know why you ever sent me a friend request on Facebook. Those of you who I know in person, I don't know why we were ever friends in person, because after I hurt my back, it was just, well, I was stuck in a subservient position. All of my money that was going to go to housing, all of my back money from disability, all of it went to paying the courts to jump through hoops because I didn't have any friends to go in with me at any point. Why didn't they go in with me? Why didn't they speak up about what they knew in public? Why didn't they speak up to the police? Why didn't they go in with me for my safety when I had to do such things? Why didn't they stay informed? And that's the point, is that there's a lot of us out here who are out here because we have friends and family who care to tell us what to do and what to think and what to feel, and to make a deal and then readjust the deal and then redo the deal, and then the deal is something else, and then pretty soon you're there going, all right, now I've been here for 6 weeks. This person told me if I go all the way to Sherman Oaks, California, and I get to Sherman Oaks, California, and we're going to look at my paperwork and we're going to look at my evidence, and I got to wait for somebody to actually send the evidence. I got to hope that this lady is not a complete nut job because I haven't met her. The situation there was so messed up, Shannon Alvarado's. Like, I am dependent on people, and they take their dear sweet time. When I was at Shannon Alvarado's, Graham had the money to send the stuff that I needed him to, and he just didn't. When I was still in Colorado, he could have kept his word to pay me what he said he was gonna. And that would have allowed me to actually keep my vehicle and hopefully, be able to stay in Colorado and fight my cases. Go back and say, hey man, this is not okay. But instead, I've been in a constant state of panic. When people are threatened by others, they want to treat me like crap, treat me like I'm a horrible person for speaking up. If you tell me that people are threatening to kill your kids, I'm going to speak up about it. All right? That's not okay. That's not an okay thing to do. I shouldn't have had to go to people who are meth addicts for help. I shouldn't have had to go to people who only knew me from Starbucks for help, because it didn't matter that I tried to keep them safe as best as I could. Years later, out of sight, out of mind. Michelle isn't one of the people that I reached out to for help before Natalie was killed. Michelle is one of the people who hopped on in January of 2018 after they found out Natalie was dead. And through the years, I'd hoped that she would finally get a hold of me, and with any of these people that offered, because I was hoping that at least one of them was serious, but none of them ever were. And that's the problem with 6 years worth of abuse. None of these people are going to take a look at the fact that it is literally 6 years of abuse. There's abuse in Tacoma, Washington. We've got interviews with prostitutes there on 72nd. There's a guy in one of my videos with a heroin needle hanging out of his arm while he's passed out at the bus stop. There's videos of the lady I let use my phone and she stole it, and I had to buy her a new one so I could get that phone back from her because I had evidence on it. And that's when Rayanne Ingersoll got a hold of me and said she needed help. She was leaving her husband and she was going to Wyoming, and I was supposed to meet her there. Part of the way there, I found out that she was going to be taking Amy Spencer's kids, or Amy Kingery. The problem is nobody ever looked at the evidence or spoke up. There's lots of people who looked at the evidence. Actually, there is a lot of people who looked at it and they agreed with me, but they just never spoke up. And none of them were my friends from before Natalie was killed. Oh, someone's typing at me. Michelle Tarhill, Sean, you need to get off the internet and focus on your... See, this is the exact stuff. I've been focusing on myself, all right? I can barely cover my daily needs, but I have to beg, okay? I am trying. You tell me that I need to move along, I move along. I move to somewhere else, I move to somewhere else. I am constantly moving somewhere else. No friends or no family, any of the places that I go. I don't have the money to keep on running around and moving to elsewhere. Do you know how expensive that is? Focus on myself, I am. I need to get myself into a safe environment. Now, jumping through all of this housing stuff, I finally got housing in Chapel, Nebraska, and you have no idea how hard that was. And when I finally got the housing there, you don't have any idea how much that sucked, because it's in Chapel, Nebraska after Natalie was killed, okay? This is a town where people know who I am. This isn't like some random stranger on the internet who's going to forget about me in fucking 6 weeks. These are people that know me in person. Some of them have been predatory and bullies towards me since I was a kid. Well, since I was 15 anyway. A lot of them did horrible things over the years because they knew they could get away with it. They knew I was different. Now, as far as focusing on myself, I am focusing on myself. I'm focusing on the rights that I'm supposed to have and don't. And I'm focusing on the reason that I don't, because my friends don't care. They didn't care when it made a difference. If they cared, I wouldn't have to beg them for help. That's the thing about Caitlin Tatum. At least she apologized for literally taking 2 years in between getting back to me. And guess how much of my life she knew about in that time? Well, none, of course. And I understand that she was busy with her own personal life. But I'm also expected to always understand, no matter what I'm going through, no matter how horrible it is, somebody else's Christmas party or drinking with the guys on the weekend is always going to be more important. It's like being an artist. All these people saying, Sean, you should go back to being an artist. You're such a wonderful artist. Why don't you do that? Well, first of all, because Waylon Lolotai fucked me up pretty bad. It hurts to draw. It hurts to hold a pencil. It hurts to type. It hurts to hold a phone. It hurts to do a lot of things. And people don't find out what my abilities are before they start power pounding those general memes. You just need to focus on yourself. You just need to love yourself. You just need to move on. You ever think about moving away from your predators? Hey, Sean, you ever think about going to these services? If I move to a new place, here's the thing. If I move to a new place, then there needs to be a safety network there for me when I get there. If I have to continually beg people while I'm being harassed in a place for months and months and months, like the situation with Molly, and the situation with that dude from Hood River that followed me here, like that's creepy shit. But by the point that I was able to try turning that stuff in, cops had already repeatedly done screwed up things when I tried to turn it in. And then they expect me to be able to do things that are beyond my means. Like I try to do this stuff on the computer, but I am petrified. I can't function. After the cops screwed up, I've had to turn them in. And I also have to be afraid to do that alone because they can retaliate against me and very often have. Some of the things people tell me is they can't because they're in another state. No, you absolutely can help to turn in abuse against an at-risk adult from another state. The problem is that the evidence that's on my YouTube, you have to be aware of it, and they're going to want to talk to me, and you're going to need to be able to speak up about what's going on. With Caitlin Tatum, she wanted to be my friend long after she'd already expired that option. And that's the thing about being a male and being homeless and being disabled, is that, yeah, in the end, people just don't care. I mean, they got good ideas, and these good ideas are great for all sorts of situations, but if you're not in these optimized situations that they have in their heads, that advice doesn't do any good. It's like the analogy I give of the bridge, where they don't even know what kind of bridge you need to build. All they know is that when you ask them for help making a bridge, because, of course, you need to build one, they're busy giving you ideas before you've ever told them what's going on with the bridge. They don't know what kind of a bridge you're even building or why. And every time that you explain to them the reality of the situation, they treat you like you're just shooting down all their ideas because you're lazy and don't want to try. And that's not the reality of it. The reality of it is that alone, going to any of these places as a single homeless male, I'm not going to get services. Without the people who are involved in the situations speaking up, it doesn't matter what I try to turn in. I've tried to turn this stuff in repeatedly. They just pretend it didn't happen, or they couldn't see it, or whatever. Now, there's plenty of evidence that lots of people have actually seen my evidence. They've actually taken a look at it. I have sent it to them. But also, there's a lot of people in foreign countries. Now, them, I can understand why it is that they didn't come forward. Quite a bit more. Especially like Siggy Lork. He's not allowed to record conversations in his country. The way I look at it, if you're going to break the law and you're going to take advantage of disabled people, it's my duty to record it. Now, the fact that none of these people want to attempt what it is that the lawyers said to do. That's the part that bothers me the most. Like, that's what the lawyers said I needed to do if I wanted to stop what was happening. I needed the people that were involved to speak up. I needed them to be involved in the situation. My predators were involved. The people who were threatening to kill me, that's definite involvement. The people who were assaulting me, that's definite involvement. And then there's my friends with "you just need to love yourself." Michelle Tarheel typed, "If you had evidence, it would have been taken care of." No, it wouldn't, because none of you understand. When you're called mentally ill, anybody can take advantage of you at any point in time. I've been posting this evidence on YouTube. When I was posting it after Natalie's death, and I did post a lot of that evidence got me put on YouTube bans and Facebook bans. At the very beginning, I didn't even have a YouTube. I had a YouTube, but not a YouTube channel. I didn't get that until I went up to South Dakota. Now, here's the thing about all these folks who, well, there's two stories that I tell. I tell the truth and I tell the cop side. And, of course, when I tell the cop side, people want to go, "Oh, you're slandering my name." No. In my court date, that's what it says. So since that's what it says in my court date, that must be true. That's what you're trying to insinuate at me, that because that's what it says in the court date, because the court date says this or the court date says that. Are you sure? Have you taken a look at the paperwork, or are you assuming? I said all of the things that people did to help me. I also said all of the reasons that they didn't work. It's because they never spoke up. They never spoke up. They never spoke up. And that's what it comes down to, is it? They never spoke up. Alright, so this lady is, of course, trolling at this point. It says, "Use your disability and apply for help." Jesus, lady, do you not pay attention? That's the thing about you being on my friends list for 6 years and me speaking up about what I've been going through for 6 years. Alright, I've already done that. I've already been through that. The thing is, like in Chapel, Nebraska, for example, I did have housing there. But having housing did not stop the abuse. It didn't stop people like Chris Kurth. It didn't stop people like Scott DaCosta. It didn't stop anyone from victimizing me. Having housing, I still had to go out to go grocery shopping. I still had to drive around and go places and run errands. It's not like I got to just do absolutely nothing and sit on my duff and magically collect a check. Meanwhile, with all of the court stuff still being held over my head, like they held crap that they committed crimes against me, okay? Waylon Lolatai, you can look his name up. He committed crimes against me. But, despite the fact that Boulder has had to pay out a lot of money because I'm not the only person he assaulted, these other people weren't painted as monsters to the public. All my friends did was show me that they weren't going to tell the truth. And that's why I'm pissed off at all of them, and I have every right to be pissed off at them. Now, pretty words like, alright, here's one. Use your ability and apply for housing. That is a great idea. That is really, actually a great idea. I've already done that. That's the problem, is that my disability money has not been able to be used for that. All of my disability money has been going to moving from place to place to place to place. Because no matter what, when I am victimized, when I am harmed, people blow me off. They don't do anything. They don't do anything. You have any idea how much more difficult it is to turn in a predator 6 months after it happened? How about after you've tried to turn it in 3 times already and been victimized because you're a homeless and disabled male? And you guys want to pretend that that doesn't make any difference. It absolutely does. We don't live in a perfect world. Now, there's a lot of pretty stuff on here. Like, I need to see telling me to get off the internet. I am trying to get help. That is what this channel is for. It is for sharing information, for getting help for all of the victims, myself included. These rights are my rights too. And focus on yourself. Now, that's a whole lot of stuff that is absolutely assumptive. It assumes that I haven't been focusing at all on myself, that getting onto the internet is my problem. No, I got onto the internet to speak out because of abuse. All right, not the other way around. It's not like, oh yeah, these people just magically started being assholes just because I started a YouTube channel and was claiming that they were being assholes. It doesn't work that way. Now, I get that there are some people out there that, yeah, they think everything's all sugar and spice and everything nice and all that, but that's not the world I get to live in. When I tell of the good things that people did, I tell of the good things that they did. But if they never come forward about it, and they never come forward to the courts about it, and they never speak up or protest at all any of this, then are they my friends? Are they people who genuinely care about me, or are they assuming and then telling me what to do, what to think, and what to feel? And it is generally the latter. Caitlin Tatum, for 6 years, that's how long it took for her to finally call a place with me, and she didn't know shit about what was going on, despite the fact that I hadn't sent her hardly anything. I sent her just enough to where she could look at it and not be overwhelmed like a lot of other people seem to be. And then these folks want to pretend like, while they're overwhelmed, that I shouldn't be. Now with Michelle, not necessarily the one typing on here, because I don't know who this lady is. I don't know if it's the same Michelle or not, and I have no way to verify currently. But, you know, that lady, the stuff that she typed at me was hurtful, and it's assumptive, and it doesn't feel good. But at the same time, I mean, I can't force her opinion, and I can't force her to do anything that she doesn't want to do. She doesn't have anything invested in this fight. This isn't her fight. And I can understand that. I'm not her friend. I'm somebody that she reached out 2 years ago and just never followed through with. And then she tried to follow through, and by that point, you know, when she finally called night before last, I could barely function. I was cold, like really cold. And I called her in the middle of the night having a severe panic attack. It might have been after the middle of the night. And she wasn't mean or rude or inconsiderate. She kept on asking me who I could call. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. You're who I can call. You are who I can call. And night times, they're really the worst time for me because of that issue. During the day, everybody's got a job. They got to go to work, so they can't make the calls with me. Meanwhile, most of the calls I got to make have to be made during the day, during business hours. A lot of the stuff that I needed help with was just a steady place to stay where I wasn't being victimized. In Chapel, Nebraska, that would have been great, but Chris Stegeman, if I was victimized, he wasn't going to do jack shit. Floyd Stegeman wasn't going to do jack shit. Literally nobody was going to do jack shit. They were just going to let it happen. That's the Nebraska way. You've got a dick. This is how you're supposed to be treated, Sean. You have a penis. What a woman says goes. Haven't you learned this yet? Like, all these guys trying to push this sexist rhetoric on me. No, that's not the way that it needs to be. That's extreme sexism. When I had housing in Chapel, and I was trying to do all that stuff there, I was still being threatened, harassed, and intimidated, having my life threatened. People were still threatening my family's life. People were still messing with me in Chapel, Nebraska. And when I'm staying with people, yes, I have to be subservient. I have to pretend that things are better than they are. And there's a lot of people that I honestly thought were my friends. Whether they're my friends or not doesn't stop me from loving them. Case in point, Dallas Richmond. But it's also got to be understood that I'm not family to any of these people. I'm not related to them. They're also not my enemies. They're just stupid. And not all of them are stupid. They're just not willing to understand. And here's the hard part. With a lot of these folks, they're intelligent enough that they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what excuses they're making. And that they're bullshit excuses. They just don't care. I make it easy for them. If you're my friend, be my friend and help me. Look at the evidence and speak out. That's what a friend would do. That's what a family member would do. I'm not good with this electronic stuff. I buy the things that you tell me to buy. I travel to the places you tell me to travel. If I go here and I go there, if I call this friend or I call that friend. And logistically, with all of my money being spent moving from place to place to place to place, how am I supposed to have any money to be able to take care of myself or jump through any of the other hoops that are required for that? There's many witnesses on my channel that their biggest issue is that they get government assistance, and government assistance is a lot of fucking work. It also prevents you from being able to help your friends or family, and that sucks especially. For Mandy Singer, that was such a fucked off situation. But Mandy Singer could have spoken up at the very beginning about how I was helping to find her son Ryan. Even after Natalie was killed, I started looking for him before Natalie was killed. There were 3 people that disappeared the day that Natalie disappeared. Well, 2 of them had disappeared just prior, but I was making another post for Mandy Singer, and I was making one for Shauna Sinclair. They didn't speak up. With Shauna Sinclair, it don't matter. I got the screenshots. With Mandy, well, I still helped her out. Even though she didn't speak up at the very beginning, I still did everything I could to help her out multiple occasions. I made sure she's got the ability to communicate. I made sure she didn't freeze to death, and I was able to get a drug addict named Angela Kurzmal to help with that. Just because somebody's a drug addict doesn't mean they don't have a heart. And I'm thankful to Angela Kurzmal for what she did for Mandy Singer, despite the fact that I'm not friends with either one of them. The other thing is, you don't understand the outreach, the impact that having this on the media and on social media, what it did to me and every single one of my friendships, what it did to my safety for me to be able to go somewhere, anywhere, and not be able to take care of myself and be screaming at the top of my lungs, I literally can't take care of myself. And it's like it falls on deaf ears. They only hear it when it's beneficial to them. When it's not beneficial to them, they pretend that I'm fine and dandy and everything should be okay. You guys don't understand what being separated from all of your friends and family all at once over one rumor is like. And I wasn't separated from them because I'm violent. I'm separated from them because I refused violence. Rather than stay in Boulder, knowing that I'm gimpy, knowing that I'd have to use some dirty and cheap tricks, I opted to stay away from the violence, but Chapel, Nebraska ain't no place for me. Chapel, Nebraska is a horrible place. Let's read the rest of this Michelle lady's stuff. She typed, "Is it possible for me to mail you money or supplies to the post office for you to pick up?" It is. It is. I'm in Tillamook, but the problem is my vehicle's not legal. You can send money to Western Union here in Oregon. I can go pick it up at Fred Meyer's. It's right across the street. You just gotta send me a message with the MTCN number and the name that you sent it by, and what state it's from. Or you give a special, if somebody doesn't have ID, which I do have my driver's license. But if someone doesn't, then you have to give a special password. I'd have to walk up there, which I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow. It's extremely painful, but I can't risk losing my vehicle. The important thing here is my evidence. That's the thing, is Michelle up there typed, if you had evidence, it would have been taken care of. No, I've been trying to show the evidence and send it to everybody that I can, but being constantly having to move from place to place to place, by the time I get somebody to help me turn it in a new place, I've already been victimized repeatedly, and the cops have blown me off already. So I mean, it makes it difficult. You know, even here, I had to go through all the motions alone. All the people here who were witnesses to the situation. As always, the witnesses never come forward. Like, why? Even knowing you recorded on YouTube, why wouldn't you come forward? Why would you promise repeatedly that you're gonna and waste somebody's time? And that's one of the things that's the most horrible part about this, is that when people say they're gonna and I wait all day long, like due to the way the laws are set up, yeah, I have to have a friend or family member. That's what my paperwork says, friend or family member. Preventative measures, go to friends and family. That's what I did before Natalie died. It didn't do any good because they were too busy telling me I needed to fucking love myself. It didn't help that most of them were on drugs, or pretty white girls who were addicted to men who were on drugs. That creeps me out too. And I'm gonna actually use 2 of these. I think that might be a bit much, but there's these fuel tablets, and they're keeping me warm right now because my vehicle is... The heater doesn't run. I don't know why I was keeping it running so long. Probably because I was gonna try to charge up my phone while I was making this video. Michelle Tar Heel type, Natalie tried to frame you. I know, and I know why she did it too. And, you know, I understand her reasons. I understand she wanted to be loved. She wanted her family to care about her. She thought if she was dead, that would solve the problem. They don't realize that, you know, Natalie was the only friend that I had that was an actual friend. She's the only one who understood that when it comes to computer stuff, telling me to do it doesn't give me the ability. She actually sat down with me when we were in Virginia and showed me how to use the Craigslist at least well enough to make the job listing. I didn't find out until after she was dead that I got a job interview through Craigslist for PetSmart or Petco. So she knew how to do it right, and because I had her help, I actually got the interview, but also she was really busy, and because of that, she wasn't able to help me with any of the rest of it, and that's not her fault. Michelle Stewart typed, have you called the few places in Tillamook we talked about the other night? That's the thing, is that I've called nearly all of these places already. Many of them, the recordings are already on my YouTube channel. There's already a whole bunch more that are on my audio recording device. Miss Stewart, let me show you my audio recording device because it's on my keychain. This is it. Let me show you. And I've posted my paperwork on here a whole bunch too. I record all of the telephone calls. I record everything that I possibly can. That's how I was able to catch these guys doing things that are illegal as all hell. The problem is, like I said, getting someone to help me turn it in. I can't turn it in alone. I'm called mentally ill. I also don't have the resources, being as I am stuck out here on the streets. People want to tell me, hey, you should just do that in Starbucks, or you should do that at the library. No, it's inappropriate to talk about those things in the library. As far as sitting down and doing the computer stuff, I've done it over and over and over again. I've sent it out to so many people, and then the thing is that they don't try to share it. Now, as far as going to the services here in Tillamook, I've already got it set up so that I can get mail here. The other thing is about these people who were mandated reporters. I exposed them for a reason. Friends and family members too. If they withhold the truth, why would I consider them friends? Why would I want to keep them around? It's fucking cold in here. Fuck this. Give me a second. As far as calling the places in Tillamook, I've been to the places in Tillamook. If I have to make a call, someone has to make the call with me who has seen the evidence, who's looked at it. That's the point in trying to find someone who's willing to look. If I spend a whole bunch of time sending you evidence and you're not sharing it, you're not speaking out, like, how much good are you really doing? And that's not meant as an insult, obviously. That's not meant to say that you're some sort of horrible monster or anything like that. The thing is, the Michelle that I was in contact with, she is a witness that I'm trying to get help, because that's one of the big things. The police tried pretending I didn't try to get help. And that wasn't the reality of it. The reality was people were scared shitless. They were having their friends and families threatened. People were saying all sorts of horrible stuff. And, you know, for me, being autistic, needing that sense of familiarity, and I've never had it, you know, that's something that a lot of people, you know, explaining that to them, they go to their families for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, and they, you know, have good relationships with their families, and their families aren't a bunch of child molesters and drug dealers. And most of us don't get that ideal family. Now, the Michelle that I'm talking about, you know, she sent me $50 the other day, and I'm not going to pretend that didn't do me any good. The words, though, that's more important. All of this, you know, temporary band-aids doesn't do anything without her words and their words. And that's why, even after these people are angry and hateful at me and don't want to be my friends anymore, the thing is that their words show that I told the truth. And that the reason I'm taking this abuse is because they just don't want to come forward. They don't want to admit that I went to them for help. They don't want to admit that they blew me off. They don't want to admit that they treated me in a very sexist way, in a very racist way as well. As if I couldn't be a victim because of the color of my skin or my gender. People trying to pretend that autism is schizophrenia, and I've been trying to get any of my friends at all to try to understand this. I get people who say, well, you don't look autistic. Well, that is so messed up. And then there's the cop-outs that people have. Like, after 6 years, my friends can't do it because of this and because of that, and whatever their reasons were, they all ended up being bullshit. Because after 6 years, if you care, you've spoken up already. I let people know that if you're not going to actually be a friend, you need to go away. I'm not going to waste my time, and I don't want you hanging around until you need something, because you know that I'll say yes. You know that I'll help you. No matter how many times you kick me in the teeth. when Alicia Bollinger went missing 3 times after her sister died. Bobby Forrest got a hold of me and asked me to try to help find her. And you goddamn right I did. I actually care about her. Just like I actually care about Caitlin Tatum, but do actually these people care about me? No. Now, Michelle, she doesn't know me in person, so she's not a bad person. She's not somebody who knew about the whole Natalie situation and me being victimized and me being assaulted. And no, she came on after all that. After all that got started and a lot more assaults happened. And, I could have gotten the evidence in a lot of these situations, but what it required was a friend to be there when I went in to do it so that my rights wouldn't be violated, so I wouldn't be denied those rights. Damn, that's getting a little bit on the toasty side. Oh shit, those fuel tablets are too close to that fire. That might not have been my best idea. At least it's warm in here. But it's getting a bit smoky. Michelle Stewart type, thank you for sharing this. I wish I were a better person, but the best thing I could do as a friend was be honest with you and know my limitations. You know what? I'm glad that you let me know your limitations. I'm also glad that you gave me your number instead of hiding like a coward. I'm also glad that you did this as properly as you were able to, given your limitations and your situation. And I do believe that if it comes to it and I give your phone number to investigators, you can at least admit that I did go to you for help, that you did offer to help, and admit that you're a real person, that you do exist. As far as sending the evidence of it, if there's something that you want to know about, I really would like to be able to send you at least enough for you to know about each of these people that I did tell the truth in these situations. And that's why I wanted to send you the conversations with them that show I told the truth. And why I'm angry. I'm angry with them because they knew that I was telling the truth. They knew that I'd gone to them for help. And they knew that they could have made a difference by speaking up and saying, hey, Sean's been trying to get help for over a year. I haven't had time to help him. I thought somebody else would. And that's what most of their assumptions were. After Natalie died, everybody's afraid of being retaliated against by these people. And also, rightly so. I've got a lot of evidence on my channel that shows, yes, every one of these people has every right and every reason to be afraid of these predators. I'm not going to deprive them of that. I'm scared of these fuckers too. But unlike you, I'm actually enduring the situation, whereas you guys are afraid of the possibility that it might. Well, if y'all stick together, you get a lot further. I was treated like I was a rapist and a serial killer and a fucking murderer and a fucking child molester and all this other stuff. Accused of being a stalker and all sorts of other creepy shit. No, I wanted people to stop assaulting me. I wanted people to stop threatening my life. I wanted Natalie to tell them the truth. And at first, it didn't even need to be Natalie to tell the truth. The first person that I talked to about the situation was Maddie Boa. She's the one that spread the rumors around Boulder, Colorado that I get assaulted over. And of course, with those being all over the world, if you pay attention to how many Natalie Bollinger sites there are, yeah, there's a reason I speak up. I speak up because this abuse doesn't just happen to me, it also happened to Natalie. It also happened to a lot of you who offered to help me. There's a lot of people who offered to help me with the intention of Well, they had a missing person, and they didn't expect that I would actually show up for the help that they'd promised or that they'd offered. They just wanted their friend or loved one to be found, and well, later on I was able to figure that out, like with Tamsin Bowles. Michelle Stewart typed, "You've tried to get help for years." You're right, and it's always had to be alone. I mean, once in a while I'm able to beg a friend to care enough to make a phone call with me, and they have no idea what the fuck is going on. Or once in a great while, I'm able to get one of the witnesses to say they'll go in with me, but then when we go in, they just stand there and look stupid. They don't say nothing. There's a lot of witnesses to this. The evidence that I need people to look at is the fact that I did go for help. The things that I was railroaded for in court were outright lies, outright slander, that each and every one of these people has one little bit or piece that shows that it's slander. The cops claim that I wasn't trying to get help. I was trying to get help well before Natalie was killed. You guys tell me to go through all this housing stuff. I was going through that before Natalie was killed. I had housing. I had housing in Chapel. I was told that I had to go to the Front Range. I went to the Front Range and started going through the hoops in Colorado. I thought Natalie was still in Virginia. You know when I found out Natalie was not in Virginia? After she fucking disappeared. That's when I found out that she was in Colorado. But you guys don't want to look at the evidence. And then there's all the evidence from the body cameras that could have been requisitioned if my friends had bothered to actually listen and actually helped how I needed, which is I needed them to speak up about what they knew. This was not a matter of who was telling the truth and who wasn't. It was a matter of creaming somebody's name so that nobody else got in trouble. I didn't have to slander anybody, and making an insinuation of that is horrible. And that's one thing that Michelle did that really does hurt me a lot. I didn't have to slander people. That's the difference between these people and me. I'm being harmed over slander, they're not. Natalie slandered me, not the other way around, and I already proved that. But I was never allowed to show that in court. I was never allowed to show it in public. None of these web sleuth places or news places give a shit. It's a matter of popularity, and obviously, you guys don't care. That's the problem with the three lies. You accuse a man of doing one of those things. You accuse him of being a sex offender, or a woman beater, or a stalker. You call him a stalker, people assume that you're a woman beater and a sex offender. It's pretty fucked up. You know why I've never ever gotten in trouble for being a sex offender? Never been charged as a sex offender? It's because I don't have sex with anyone. I've had sex twice, and I regretted it both times. Gross. At least Michelle was honest, though. And she typed, "You've tried to get help for years," and that is true. But also, you know, the thing is, a lot of my friends, they were my friends because I helped them. They were my friends because when they were getting beaten up by their husband and they needed somebody to help them move out, I was the one who helped them move. There's over a dozen women in Chapel, Nebraska who I've helped to move. Over a dozen. That's just in one little small community. Michelle Stewart typed, "I absolutely admit that you can give me for help and that I was not able to help you." Thank you, Miss Michelle. That's the thing about people not looking at the evidence. You know, for 6 years, I did try to send you and Caitlin and everybody else all the evidence that I could. I tried to post it publicly because getting a hold of people was difficult. It was always, they're too busy, they're too busy, they're too busy. That's a far cry from Sean's not trying to get help. There's also how incredibly complicated it got. Now, Michelle didn't do bad, horrible things to me. I mean, yeah, she should have left a long time ago or spoken up a long time ago and didn't. But that's the thing, is that at least she comes forward about what she knows. What she knows is as important as any of the rest of these folks. I never stopped trying to get help because the abuse never stopped. Now, I want to go all the way up to the very top where it says Michelle Tarheel. It says, Sean, you need to get off the internet and focus on yourself. That's a example of, I've already been focusing on myself. Getting off of the internet doesn't help. It's the abuse in person that I have to deal with. The fact that I am forced to live in conditions like this. The fact that I don't get enough money to actually survive on in these conditions. It is more expensive to live homeless. It's kind of like telling people they just need to love themselves. It doesn't help. Michelle Stewart typed, you can send me info. I'll look at it as I can. Yes, ma'am. You said you'd share it, and I know if you're changing your mind, you might not be willing to share it, and I understand that. That's one of the things, is that the information is so that people know that I'm telling the truth. There's a lot of other victims, not just me, and a lot of people thought that I have a lot more voice than I do. But after I left Boulder, you know, like I said, out of sight, out of mind, when I was no longer useful, that's when my friends showed me I wasn't their friend. There's also a lot of people who didn't understand that the kind of friend that I need is the kind of friend that my paperwork says I need to get. A friend or family member who can help me turn it in right away. If I had somebody come and smash my window in and start swinging a baseball bat at me, and I called you for help turning it in, would you help turn it in? I'm posing this to everybody, of course. Because that's what I tried doing with my friends before Natalie died. When I was assaulted, when my life was threatened, when people were threatening to kill my friends and family, I always reached out to somebody. But also, when you're a really nice guy and you're also easy to victimize, there's a lot of people who are predatory, and they take advantage of that. The messed up part is these people didn't need to. Like Jamie pretending like I stood a chance or whatever. You know, I never wanted that kind of a relationship with her. I was just willing to have sex with her so she wouldn't stop being my friend. How stupid is that? Well, I didn't have sex with her, and she, over the years, has kept me around, I guess, to play games with my head, games with other people's heads. But the other thing about Jamie is that, you know, there's a lot of people that knew about that situation. Dallas Richmond talks about it, so does Zach Richmond, and quite a few others. Over 6 years, though, the sheer quantity of it. You know, you guys think that homeless people are just left alone, and any problems that they have, they brought on themselves, they chose. You tell male victims that if they speak out, then they're the bad guys. They deserve to be victimized for speaking out. Like, what the hell? Like when you're raped as a kid and you try to tell on the parent that did it, instead of Instead of him getting in trouble, you're in trouble. Why does it work that way? It shouldn't work that way. That's wrong. That's not what the law says they're supposed to do. Give you a choice between being locked up as a kid or staying with your predator. That is so fucked up. Cray type, have you considered getting a job? Cray, knock that shit off. Alright, I'm done with it. Stop. I don't need that condescending bullshit. Matter of fact, that makes me want to send you a song. A few of them, actually. Now, I'm not gonna go running around saying that everybody involved in this is a predator, because not all of them are. Most of these people aren't predators. Most of these people are just people who made a mistake. Most of these people are people who didn't understand the gravity of the situation or the importance of it. There's a lot of people who said they could handle it, and then once they got a small taste of it, showed that they couldn't. A lot of people hid behind religion. A lot of people hid behind laws that don't actually exist, which baffles the shit out of me why they kept pushing that. I'm like, I already sent you information on how the law works. But instead, they wanted to argue with me and say stuff like, oh, I just don't understand why it'll make a difference. It's not going to make a difference, Sean. No, it does make a difference. I can show in my court dates that I was railroaded over lies and slander. But I was also prevented from turning any of that in over lies and slander. And meanwhile, my friends, or supposed friends, who knew that it was lies and slander and verified that they were lies and slander, never came forward to the courts about it and never came in with me. The ones who claimed that they went to the courts about it, I can believe that they did, because they were told to do the same things I was. Things that were outright wrong, and then they'd change it depending on what you tried. If you tried it on the internet, they told you got to do it in person. If you do it in person, they tell you can only do it on the internet. They send you to all these different places that tell you it's not their job. Mental health after mental health after mental health. And that's the biggest issue with being an at-risk adult. I was told that if I jumped through these hoops, that it would help me so that I could get the abuse by Natalie Bollinger and her cronies to stop. But instead, it was used as an excuse to harm me, to pretend like I'm mentally retarded, and to separate me from my loved ones. And you guys just want me to be okay with that. Those of you who got kids, I want you to imagine that if today they took away your kids, took away your husband, took away your house, took away your car, and now all of a sudden you're homeless because somebody killed your best friend. And then there's the part where people are like, oh, well, you went overboard. We understand you just wanted to help her, and, you know, it didn't turn out right. And, you know, lo and behold, you should just left her alone. Like, no, that's not the situation. You know, in between when I left Virginia and when Natalie was killed, I was trying to get help turning Natalie and her predator buddies in. Now, there's a possibility that Natalie didn't know all of the horrible things that were happening. I definitely told her, and I definitely posted up proof. But she didn't see the proof because I didn't have the ability to show that until after she was dead. That's the thing about all the people that I paid to teach me electronic stuff that didn't teach me. They were busy getting stoned, and busy getting fucked up on meth, and busy getting drunk, and just busy doing every goddamn thing else. There's a lot of people that I paid money to because they were going to help me how I needed, and they didn't follow through. And of course, that cost me time, it cost me money, and it cost me sanity. When Michelle called me the other day right? Like by the time she called, I was having a severe panic attack over her not calling the day before. But I also was trying real hard not to freak out over it, because see, here's the thing is that people keep telling me to be calm and be patient and to do it a certain way, and that patience has allowed all of my predators to get away, has allowed, well, so many horrible things. And of course, even with me recording it, like the situation with Jamie getting punched in the head, getting somebody to do something about it. Even the cops outright lie about what the law says in that situation. How can I trust them when they're going to allow a woman who is that messed up to be harmed like that many times over and over, even if there's evidence that they can see with their own two eyes? Anyway, I don't hold animosity towards most of these people. And the ones that I do hold something close to animosity, it's aggravation. Aggravation at the fact that a lot more people have ended up dead because they just didn't want to come forward. They didn't want to admit that I had come to them for help and that they had blown me off. They didn't have to say that they blew me off. That wasn't something that was necessary. And I also don't see how having my vehicle on is doing me any good when it's not plugged in. Alright, I'm at 58%. Alright, well, I guess I had a bit more talking I could have done. Anyway, I got screenshots of the stuff that I typed and that was typed at me. So at least I have screenshots of that. And I usually do that. But of course, the real issue is having a place to organize it all and help turning it in. The place to organize is essential, but it needs to be emergency, because I can't just wait for housing to turn in my predators, because I'm stuck out here in a situation where I'm going to be victimized. And I can't take care of myself. I can't defend myself. And it's because of the abuse. Abuse that has been recurring and often. And because my friends, or so-called friends, didn't speak up about what they knew when it did make a difference. When it made the biggest difference. Although if they all stopped being cowards all at once and all spoke up now, I think it would make a hell of a difference. I'm sure you guys don't like being exposed. I'm sure you guys don't like being put up on my YouTube channel with our actual words. Now you can ask Michelle if that's the Michelle that I'm talking about. You know, the thing is, when she finally did call, like I was having a severe panic attack, and you know, the thing is, in that situation, the more freaked out I am, the worse my ability to speak is. The more somebody interrupts me, the worse it gets. When people want to tell me, you know, you just got to love yourself as a solution, that's going to send me into a panic attack, because that's not an actual solution. That doesn't turn in the evidence. That doesn't get me a safe place, and it doesn't get me a friend or a family member in person who cares. Or on the phone who cares, who's able to actually do things in a timely and efficient manner. I got to understand that people have families, and they do. But there's also the fact that they, unlike Michelle, who I hope that's the same Michelle, is typing that she will speak up, and that's all right. You know, that's something that I am totally down with. And I think that is a far better way of doing it than having to expose her full name on the internet with her phone number and all that other crap. That, why do that? Why would somebody want to do that? And well, the answer is simple. It's out of desperation. You know, these people claim that they would come forward and just never did. They never tried. And with Michelle, she at least says that she'll try. And of course, she's actually said that she'll do some things that I still needed her to do. So, I mean, she's not actually dipping out. But I needed people who was to admit that I did try. And Michelle can look back, and yeah, she did first send me a friend invitation back in 2018 in January. I got it screenshotted. You know, this is all stuff that it's not like I'm trying to ask her to pretend we've been friends for 20 years and I lost my virginity to her and her cousin at the same time. And, you know, we were party animals and we did all sorts of, no, I've never met her. She sent me a friend request after Natalie died, and I have reached out to her for help multiple times. And, you know, if you've got family problems, that's the thing about the courts is that if you've got family problems, that's okay. But the courts need to know that instead of making me post it on the internet. That's just mean to do to yourself, in addition to being mean to do to me. So I'm thankful to Michelle Lady far more than I am most of the people that I know in real life, because when it really made a difference, although Michelle did the same thing, she doesn't have anything emotionally invested in me the way that they did. I've never rescued Michelle from anybody. I've never stood in between her and somebody who's trying to stab her. I've never pulled the attention of somebody who has beaten on her. I've never had to tell a group of people that they don't get to put their nasty cockbeaters on her because she didn't really molest anybody, and I was there. You know, none of these are situations that happen with Michelle. She's just somebody who didn't help and couldn't help. And that's the important part of it, is that if you can't, then that is something the courts need to know before the cops are allowed to sell their own narrative and the Bollingers are allowed to sell their own narrative. Because then it deprives me of resources. And that's what we're dealing with here, is that I had to do desperate things because I had no resources and had no friends. I had people who were offering to help, but weren't. They just weren't. They'd offer to help how I needed, and I've said this in this video already. And then when it came down to it, they didn't actually help how I needed. And then they'd want to throw the sandwich thing in my face. Well, I bought you a sandwich. Well, screw your sandwich. I'm grateful for the sandwich. Everybody needs to eat. But if you would help me to work on the stuff that I traveled here to get the help with, well, then lo and behold, we wouldn't have the issue because I'd be able to spend time getting my own food. Instead of it's hurry up and wait. It's hurry up and wait. Shannon Alvarado's was one of the worst places for that. Because every single night it was, or every single day it was, yeah, we'll work on it tonight after Zanny goes to bed. And then at nighttime, Shannon's already fucking drunk. And how much help is she going to be? I get why Brett Roloff don't want to be my friend no more. There's a video on my YouTube channel here where he's digging through his own feces for a bag of methamphetamines. Like, yeah, dude. How's that help? So a complete stranger willing to admit, at least, that I've been trying to get help since she first offered. And I have been speaking out, and I have been showing evidence, and people just don't have time to look at it all. And I don't have a place to organize it all, and I don't have anyone to go in with me in person. And no matter what, the jurisdiction thing, jurisdiction, I can show that the jurisdictional laws and rules were not followed. That they had a different set of rules for me than they did have for, of course, my predators like Danica Garner, Rochelle Shelley Campbell, Alicia Bollinger, Natalie Bollinger, Tim Beeson, Ted Bollinger. Man, these people just kept coming at me, and I kept speaking up because that's what should be done. Predators don't stop being predators just because you shut up. Look at Waylon Lolatai. How many people did he assault? Look at Dmitry Shankling. Why is he dead? Why is it that I spoke up about Clearview over a year before Tony Kovaleski, and I spoke up about Whalen Lalatai over a year before Tony Kovaleski? I'm in a constant state of panic, running around like a chicken with my head cut off. That is my life. Anyway, I hope for no hatred or disrespect, and I'm sorry this is such a long video. You know how we end them. Good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind. Unless it's me, I guess.